let's talk about founders for a second, but in the startup context.
Mm-hmm.
One of the more common questions that people ask successful VCs or investors is, what do you look for in a founder? So I'm just going to ask you that. Like, what are the things that you look for in founders, or the red flags that disqualify an investment or a founder?
Yeah. So number one, intelligence. You got to be smart, which means you have to know what you're doing to some level. And that's a fuzzy thing, but you talk to people and you kind of get a sense of, do they know what they're doing or not? Do they have insight? Do they have specific knowledge? Have they thought about this problem deeply? It's not about the age. It's not how many years they've spent, but just how deep is their understanding of what they're about to do. So intelligence is key. Energy, because being a founder is brutally difficult. It takes a long time. And in the long run, the people who succeed are just the ones who persevere. So if someone runs out of energy, or if they're doing this in some hesitating preliminary way where they're looking for constant positive feedback, or if they're easily thrown off course, then they're not going to make it to the end, especially in the highly competitive startup context. And then finally is integrity. Because if you have someone who's high intelligence and high energy, but they're low integrity, what you've got is a hardworking, smart crook. And especially in the startup world, things are very dynamic. They're very fast moving. People are very independent. So if somebody wants to screw you over, they will find a way to do it. And fundamentally, ethics and integrity are what you do despite the money. If being ethical was profitable, everybody would do it. So what you're looking for is a core sense of values that rises above and beyond the pure financial incentives. So for example, if I'm talking to a founder and they offer to do something that is slightly unfair to another shareholder or employee or founder in exchange for making me happy, that's a red flag. Because if they can do it to them, they can do it to me.
For sure.
And integrity is the hardest one to figure out because it requires longitudinal relationships.
Meaning long-term.
Exactly. So I've just become more hyper aware of that piece as time goes on. But those are kind of the three things that I look for. And then I would just say a thing that isn't really about success, but is more just about personal time is when you invest in somebody or you work with somebody, you start a company with somebody, you're signing up to spend the next decade of your life having them in your life.
Right.
And so you just have to make sure you actually genuinely like these people. You don't consider it work to have to answer a phone call or take a meeting or spend time with them. If it's exhausting, if they're downers, if they're negative, if they're difficult, no amount of money is worth it. You and I will both die with money in the bank. And so it's not about money at this point. It's about, do I want to spend my scarce time, resources, mental energy, spirit, interacting with these people? My favorite founders are actually the ones who I learned from. So every time they call me up because they need help with something, I jump on it because I know that walking around the block with them for an hour, I'm going to walk out much smarter.
Who are some that come to mind just offhand, recognizing that there are many others you could name?
Oh, there are tons. But just to give you a very recent example, there are these two basically kids, Corey and Michael, who started this company called One, which now runs a product called After School. And they're young. I think Corey was 19 when they started the company. He might have been 17.
How do you spell One?
Just O-N-E. That was the name of the company, but they have different products. And Michael Callahan is his co-founder. And these guys are just brilliant. They're young, they're kids, but the level at which they think about the depth that they put into social products is absolutely mind-blowing. Another one is Ryan Breslow. I recently invested in his company, started a company called Bolt, which does stuff in the financial payment space. This founder has assembled a crack team of engineers out of Square and Twitter and Stripe, and he's done very little so far. He's a very young guy. And then when I asked to invest in his company, or I was getting to know him, he reference checked the heck out of me, at every step of the way. Very professional, very quick, very thorough. But he did more diligence on me than I did on him.
How did he do that without being a pain in the ass to people you know? Because I know people, for instance, there are entrepreneurs I shall not name who try to pitch me and they have like 30 people. They just bombard 30 of my friends to try to get to me. And it's a complete turnoff if they're just using kind of brute force. How did he do it the right way?
It wasn't brute force. He asked me for references. He also did his own back channel. He was very quick. He was very transparent. And then he actually compiled the feedback he had gotten on me and gave it to me.
Oh, wow.
as if he had done a peer review of me and he thought I should have the data. And I was so blown away by his professionalism, especially for such a young person. He's just probably 1 or 2 years out of school, maybe a little bit more. So it's just certain people, certain entrepreneurs, you get the feeling that they really care about what they're putting together. Every early move that they make, they consider it as they're putting bricks in the foundation of a skyscraper that they're going to build. And you can see that right away. A founder who comes barreling in, decides very quickly, treats it like a flip, says, well, if I get a good offer, I'll sell this thing, or I'll do whatever's pragmatic to make money. Those founders are not in it for the long haul. And you learn very quickly that all the returns in this business are made with the huge, huge outcomes, at least for an investor. And so you start becoming hypersensitive to these founders who actually apply care and are very meticulous about how they go about things.